In this flashy world, it's really hard to see such a fresh and refined horror film. The story tells the past and present of the Great White Horse Hotel in Ipswich, UK, and 8 strange stories that happened in it. Until 1836, the famous writer Dickens had stayed here in the past 6 years. Tossing and turning, looking at the coat hanging at the door, he always fantasized about something wicked. Soon, there was a woman's scream outside. There was a knock on the door. A man with glasses broke in and introduced himself as Pickwick. The man said he went downstairs and found that he didn't take along his pocket watch. He went up the stairs again, but something wicked happened. He couldn't seem to find his room. He could only open every door to check until one door could be pushed open and he thought it was his room. He went in, then took off his clothes and went to bed. Then a fat woman suddenly appeared outside. She had gone to the wrong room. He couldn't help it. He reminded the woman about that. The woman was scared. She beat him with an umbrella. He had to hide in Dickens' room. There was a knock on the door. It was a fat woman. Pickwick hid in the closet. Dickens answered the door. He said he had never seen a man with glasses. Then he put a coat on the fat woman. The fat woman went out to catch the thief. When Pickwick was about to leave, Dickens suddenly saw the coat that he had put on the fat woman on the rack. He went back to the door. This was so strange. Dickens gave the coat to Pickwick. Just as Pickwick went out, Dickens found that he didn't take the candle. He went out to give him one, but he couldn't find him anywhere. It was as cold as a barn here. He went back to the room. The coat appeared on Dickens again. He didn't notice it. Today, inspiration suddenly emerged and started to write. According to the man's name, he wrote a book with the title, Pickwick Biography, then published it later. Dickens and this book were real, and the story also wrote about the Ipswich Great White Horse Hotel, but was this a real event? I don't know. 4 years later, also in this hotel, an old man came and entered the long reserved room. There was a woman waiting here. She was his wife. They had come here every year for 40 years. At dinner, his wife suddenly said, "I hope I won't be here next year. I hope we will not be here in the future." The two finished a dance. The wife disappeared. She died 40 years ago. In 1924, Miss Jenkins of the Ghost Club from London checked in at the hotel. It was said that there were frequent incidents here. When moving her belongings upstairs, the manager assured her, "I have never heard of a supernatural event in my 20 years of employment. That's why I didn't come until yesterday to surprise everyone." After check-in, she opened the box with the card. Just as she was about to touch it, a man suddenly came in and said he was the lobby manager. Jenkins turned around and looked at him. When she said the name of a victim here, the manager's body trembled a little. He told her a story. In this room, 20 years ago, a woman killed her husband with a dining knife. Then she lied in the bathtub and committed suicide. Since then, the ghost of the man just wandered around the hotel every day and peeked at the hotel. What about his wife? I don't know. She may be just like him. Jenkins was suddenly in high spirits and wanted to find out the truth. She turned on the instrument. Something seemed to pour out of it. Then the door rang, the closet suddenly closed, scaring the manager. And here came a bearded man. "What are you doing here?" "Catching ghosts with the lobby manager." "Lobby manager? I'm the lobby manager here." Then who was the man just then? They looked at the man in the closet. This was the old man who was stabbed to death by his wife. Aha! The man looked behind them in horror. The door was open. A woman with a knife suddenly appeared. One late night in 971, the receptionist was reading the horror novel, The Dead of Night. A man came in from the rain. Taking a closer look, he turned out to be the author of this book. She heard he went crazy in his early years and was just released from the mental hospital. He came to this hotel because there were frequent strange events here. He was going to write a great horror book called Hunted or Hunting. When sleeping at night, the writer suddenly woke up. He looked at the painting on the wall. There was a black spot in the rice field painted on it. Then he heard the dog barking. The writer asked the receptionist if she could keep its voice down, but the receptionist said that they forbid pets and asked if she heard it wrong. After going back, the writer found that the black spot in the rice field in the painting was getting bigger. It seemed that a strange thing was ready to rush out of the painting. The writer turned over the painting and saw a scratch on the back. Aware that something was wrong, he immediately packed up and left. And the editor-in-chief happened to be here. He came and checked if the writer was okay. He read the draft that the writer wrote. "Good. Why were you leaving?" The editor-in-chief asked the writer to stay for another night. "If you want me to accompany you, don't be afraid to come over." "No." Finally, the writer decided to stay. He came back and erased the scratch on the back of the painting and continued to write. At night, he heard the dog barking again. He immediately turned over the picture. The scratch on it turned into 2 deeper scratches. The writer called the mental hospital's president, speaking of having illusion again. Then he looked back at the painting. The shadow in the painting was running out. It was a wolf. The writer threw the painting into the closet. Then he finished the book after a night. He was a little excited. He would soon be able to prove that he could stay outside of the mental hospital again. But then, he heard the dog barking again. There was a bloody confrontation. The writer's death was on the news. The cause of death was unknown. The work he left before his death was called Black Dog. In 1952, a couple were going for their honeymoon. They came to the hotel and booked a room. But the electricity in the room was not quite right today. The light bulb kept flashing around. The husband went downstairs to ask what was going on. Meanwhile, the wife waited alone in the room. The light went out and dust rose from the ceiling. Outside came the roar of bombers and the walls cracked. The wife fainted with fear. When she woke up again, the husband had come back. The wife said she wanted to go somewhere. "Where are you going? I will give you all the money." "No, not money, a room rate, or do you want to spend the bride price for the night?" The husband forced his wife. The pregnant landlady suddenly rushed in, asking, "What happened?" The wife took this opportunity to ditch her husband. "Listen, man, just have a drink and calm down." When he went out to look for his wife, the door couldn't open. Then the ceiling fell and killed him. Many years later, his wife had remarried. She took her present husband back and thanked the landlady. If the landlady hadn't taken her away, she might have died in the accident. But the manager said the landlady died 2 years ago. She was bombed by a bomber and died with her child along with the east half of the hotel. That was where this woman and her ex-husband had stayed. The story ended, but the woman told him that World War II was from September 1, 1939, to September 2, 1945. As for the turning point, Western Europe field Normandy landing. Then the Battle of Stalingrad in Eastern Europe, then the Pacific battlefield was Midway Island, the North Africa's battlefield. Except that Stalingrad was a recognized turning point in history books, others were also of great significance. Alright, go on. In 1997, 2 new workers came to the hotel to work. The supervisor gave each of them a name tag. The girl's name was wrong, saying her name was Messi, not Daisy. But the supervisor kept calling her Daisy. Messi worked in housekeeping departure. The first room was super messy. After hard cleaning, she just closed the door and left. The door opened automatically again. Messi came back to check. She found that the room was messy as before. She didn't ask anyone about the abnormal thing but started to clean it up right away. The second time she cleaned, she suddenly found blood on the carpet. The switch of the bathroom also fell to the ground. After finishing, she closed the door and opened it again. Messi went to the supervisor. The supervisor told her to overcome it and carried on with her work. Messi finished cleaning for the 3rd time, closing the door and opening it again. Messi had enough of it. She quit. She went into the room and took off her shoes. She picked up the book and had a rest. Then there was a name tag on the bed with her correct name. She seemed to hear someone telling her to wake up. Messi wanted to check but the door suddenly closed. She was stabbed to her feet by a broken cup on the ground. She went to the bathroom to wash and accidentally pulled off the switch line. Then another slip, she fell into the bathtub. The water was still flowing and she was drowning. On the other side, the supervisor asked the boy who worked with Messi where Messi had gone. She also reminded him not to let loose his vigilance. The boy came to the room. It took him a lot of effort to open the door. It was as if someone was pushing at the other side of the door. Then he found Messi in the bathtub. Strangely, there was no water in the bathtub. Messi jumped up and said, "There is something strange in the room," and ran out. The injury in her foot didn't seem to exist. The boy didn't know why he found Messi's name tag on the bed. Then the faucet in the bathroom turned on automatically. When he came in to check, the door was suddenly closed by some force. He was gone. I didn't understand the story. There was no blood when Messi first went in. The switch still was good. The second time, there was blood, the switch fell off. The third time there was no exception. The fourth time, her foot was pierced. The switch was pulled out when she touched the injury. It was connected, but it was not very logical. Was it related to the story of the wife killing her husband? When his wife died in the bathtub, he used Messi as a double. When the husband wanted to come alive, he got in the boy's body. Or perhaps, this room had some kind of predictive power. Or just don't open the room while cleaning, so nothing strange would happen. Schrodinger's room. Okay, it came 1968, at that time, this hotel became the strangest hotel in the country. The ads all said, "Come to us, you'll be satisfied." A woman came today. When she entered the door, she saw a waiter standing at the door welcoming her then disappearing. This was the thriller service of this hotel. The waiter was Bob, working under the landlady. The landlady provided him with a place to live so he wasn't so lonely. But recently, Bob's service quality had declined seriously. Terrible, don't you say for yourself? I understand. What's wrong with you? Do you know you scared me to death? We won't move anything across space, curtain or anything. Do you understand? The waiter shed tears down his face. He thought it was useless to say anything now. He decided to go back to his room and find something scary. Your room? Wow, no wonder. The waiter tried the headless vampire, a blonde wig, ghost and so on. Enough. The landlady asked him to take down the cloth. One pulled, one held, and an accident happened in the dispute. The landlady fell downstairs and died on the spot. Since then, the waiter and his girlfriend continued to operate the hotel. The landlady came out in person, scaring the couple, but she was no better than the waiter. "Sister, can you go out? We're having fun." The hotel was soon closed. Let's continue the plot. In 2019, on a normal day, a hacker intruded the hotel system, monitoring a group of robbers to the hotel. The robbers came to the hotel to meet the hacker. 1, 3, 4, 5 in all. They were all serious criminals. Now they were only 5 homeless men. The boss came into the room. He caught a young man who was a hacker. The hacker said the reason why the meeting place was here was many ghosts wandering here. It was suitable for old men. The boss quarreled with the hacker and fainted due to myocardial infarction. He woke up the next second. Where is the 5th robber? The 5th? What 5th? There were only 4 robbers and a hacker. Where was the 5th robber? The boss went to the toilet to find the missing one. I always feel the atmosphere was a little scary. Han went to pee. The boss told him to hurry up and also find the 4th robber. The 4th? What 4th? There were only 3 robbers and a hacker. The boss went to the toilet to find the 4th. But there's nothing here. The 2nd robber rushed in and asked if he was crazy. There was no 4th robber. The boss went out and found the light out. It was still dilapidated around. What was going on? The hacker said it was not surprising that this place was abandoned in the early years. Play tricks, right? Give me your gun. The 3rd robber didn't answer. Okay, I see. There are only 2 robbers and a hacker here, right? Why would you rush to answer? The hacker smiled and told the truth. The boss set up a group of 8 to commit crimes. Then the 8th robber tried to sneak away with the money. When the boss found out, he secretly killed the 8th robber. Then tricked the 8th robber's grandson to die with him. The body was hidden into the wall. Afterward, he blamed it on the 8th robber and took all the money alone. The hacker was the grandson of the 8th robber. After that, the boss continued to commit crimes over the years, living by betraying his accomplices and taking away the property of the people around him. Shut up. The boss shot the hacker. He was going to kill the 2nd robber, but a heart attack made him faint. When he woke up again, he saw a picture of his granddaughter on the ground, but his granddaughter above was gone. When he tried to run out, he was stopped by 2 robbers. Perhaps it was the 6th and 7th robber. The hacker appeared again, telling the former accomplices to take revenge. The boss didn't have a granddaughter at all. It was just his fantasy. The boss fired another shot at the hacker. The hacker disappeared. The boss fainted on the chair. As soon as the picture turned, the robbers surrounded the boss's body. The boss was a good man. He had spent his whole life to work side by side with everyone. Never had he betrayed his accomplices. We must take good care of his granddaughter. The hacker interrupted at this time, saying the boss got a good place now and telling him not to be worried. Let me explain the plot here. In fact, the boss killed many accomplices when he was young. Now there were only 2 of them alive. He gathered his accomplices and the hacker to rob the hotel. The hacker was a ghost. He made the boss hallucinate that all the people around him were dead, making him scared to death. The 2nd and the 5th robber didn't know the boss deceived his accomplices. They thought he was a good man and wanted to take care of his granddaughter. Throughout the whole movie, it feels like only the old man who missed his wife and the story of the woman who was almost forced by her fiancé is related. The old man's wife and the landlady of the hotel probably died together in the bombing. I can't relate it to other stories at all. I think the film should have a lasting appeal. Maybe it's just because I don't understand British culture. I recommend you to see the original film. Maybe the details are hidden in the language or some obscure places. Alright, I've had a bad cold recently. It wasn't very pleasant. Fortunately, my passion is too strong and I still have a high mood. That's all for today. I'm Harry. I'll see you next time.